Wanted to discuss um, evolution and science explainers and all these debates I see. Um, I think you science explainers, Gutsick Gibbons, Professor Dave, so many. I'm just enthralled by the debates with theists and these, intelligent design liar hoaxers and creationists. I'm an atheist. You know, I just don't see evidence for God, and the evidence for natural selection, evolution. You know, uh, it really is just overwhelming. And yet we keep having debates and debates and debate after debate with these, creationists, um, science deniers, Christians, um, because I hate to use the word advice because you guys, you're never going to hear this video, I know, but I thought, what the hell? I'm watching thousands of hours of this stuff on YouTube, and I thought I'd just share my thoughts because what I notice is the science person is always being put on the defensive, and they're always being put in this position to constantly explain the science. And the theist, intelligent design creationist just gets to sit back and, let's poke a hole in this, let's poke a hole in that. And they're always going to be able to do that because we can't know everything. We can't know everything. So, we love the term God of the gaps, but it's true. They'll always be able to find some little gap in our knowledge or something we don't know and go, aha. But what I notice in all these debates, what's really frustrating is I have no formal debate experience, and I feel like I could get any one of these, even hardcore hucksters like William Lane Craig and Frank Turek, because they just have a presupposition. They have a presupposition that they can't show evidence for, that they can't explain any aspect of it, and yet they get to sit there and say, if you don't know every single thing about science, if you can't answer every question, if we can't like assemble a cell artificially, like who's that idiot that pretends to be a scientist, James Tour, right? Said, well, he's gone on and on for years. Oh, origin of life, we don't understand it. You need to be able to make a cell in the lab. And then he goes to Harvard and said, well, even if we could, we would only be figuring out how God did it. Wait, what? So you see the problem here. And it frustrates me. Look, I love you guys. I love that we get the science out there, but I think the problem is that you allow these theist creationists, intelligent designer, whatever, grifters, you allow them to keep the high ground because you allow them to claim that they have explanatory power, but nobody ever forces them to demonstrate that they don't. So how would I get, going back to something I said earlier, how would I get these guys to rage quit? I would just say, okay, yeah, okay, you know what? No, I don't know. I don't know this or that about, the origin of life. We can't answer that. We can't answer, we don't know what came before the Big Bang. Can you explain how God made life? Can you demonstrate how God made life? Can you even show how a single electron was made by God? And then if you start just fine, give them the premise and then just start asking them questions. I think you would just illustrate very quickly that they have no idea. They have no answers. And then they will get to hide in a, oh, it's ridiculous. They have a book called the Bible that just says God spoke and did all these things. So is that what their answer would be? If you actually corner them in a debate? Well, God spoke. God spoke. Well, okay, how does a omnipotent, timeless, spaceless, massless being without vocal cords and a mind speak? You know what I mean? And then they'll just say, well, it's a parable. And then I feel like these guys have nothing. But again, I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing the science explainers on YouTube that are so smart and intelligent and knowledgeable. But the thing is, even the most knowledgeable, intelligent person will get put in a corner by these creationists because you can't know everything. Like a person would have to dedicate, 60 years of their life and to get, 10 PhDs on every discipline of science, and even that science, astrology, everything. And they'll still be able to take the high ground because they'll always be able to ask a question that we can't answer. We don't have all the answers for everything, but they get to pretend they do, and it's this simple, silly, God did it that they can't show evidence for. They can't, they can't explain a single aspect or how we would detect creation, how God did anything. These people have no answers. They don't know. It's a fantasy fairy tale that and they gussy it up to make it look like, deep philosophical, arguments. They'll cite the Kalam, which, I think it's funny. The Kalam was everything that exists must have a cause, right? And then so what did we do, as atheists? The most obvious thing, the counter to that was, well, God exists. So what was his cause? Oh, so they quickly changed the Kalam to, well, everything that begins to exist has a cause. And God doesn't begin to exist because he's eternal. Oh, okay. How convenient. I mean, you see the dishonesty here? But again, I'm rambling. This is my first YouTube video. I don't like making a million edits. So I'm just going to talk in my mic, and this will probably get no views. I would just obviously I would just scream like a little girl if Professor Dave or Gutsip Gibbons or anyone actually replied or did a reaction. But yeah, I really think not that we're wasting our time. I don't want to say it that way, but the way these debates are always presented is, oh, here's the creationist, intelligent designer with explanatory power, versus here's the evolutionist, Darwinist, whatever, with explanatory power. And that's just a lie. I want to close this video out by making this very, very, very clear to everyone. I'm sorry creationists, I'm sorry Christians, whatever. You have no explanatory power to the point where you can't even assert that your God is a candidate explanation for anything. He's not a candidate, and it's always phrased. These debates are always phrased that, well, we have two competing candidate explanations, and if one loses, the other one wins. No. I'm not convinced that God is a candidate explanation if they can't even explain how God could do a single thing. How could it? Please give me the mechanism of creationism. Please give me the signal that we could detect to parse out, an intelligent designer from anything in nature. Oh, that's right. They don't ever come out and say this, but here's another little secret. They think everything is designed by God. So there is no way to tell the difference. A rock is just as miraculous as a cell. But they don't want to just come out and say it that way because it sounds obviously stupid. We can tell this rock is not designed. We can tell life is not designed, but I think with life, they can crowbar God in because it seems so miraculous. We have these big 3.5 pound pile of neurons sitting on our necks, and it allows us to experience the world and to think we're so special, and we have all these deep thoughts, but it's all chemistry and electricity and DNA, and we can explain all of this, but oh geez, this is going longer than I thought. Anyway, you get the point. I don't know if I'll ever catch on or do the work. I just have this fantasy of debating one of these creationists and just taking them apart by just saying, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't know that. Can you explain how God does it? Just counter everything with a question. And they might criticize you for being an asshole, but I think this is necessary to show that they have no explanatory power. They have no reason to believe what they believe. They can't demonstrate anything. We can demonstrate quite a bit with science. Just because we don't have, just because we don't, just because we don't have all the answers doesn't mean, haha, we win, yay, Jesus. No, they can't demonstrate a single thing, not a single piece of evidence. And yet, I watch these debates, and it's like, oh, this side won because yeah, the evolutionists made a little tiny little mistake or category error or whatever. No, these people, they have no idea. They have no clue. They eventually just it's Kent Hovind's all the way down. Some of them just sound smarter than that, but they're really all Kent Hovind. And I just don't know why this is still being debated. Common descent. Let's be clear. Common descent has absolutely falsified creationism. It's been proven in DNA that everything is related to everything. That should have just been the ultimate falsifier for creationism. But here, creationism is still alive and well. They still think they got the answers. And why? Because we're just too nice, or we just accept their premise. We shouldn't just accept their premise that, hey, we have this valid belief system that we can put up against yours. No, they can't explain anything. How does any of this work? How does God do anything? How does he make a single a single element, a single quark, a quantum field? How does it? They have nothing. They said nature. They say things like, well, nature can't just create. Okay, well, when I smash two electrons into each other in a particle accelerator, that creates I think a proton. Don't quote me on that. It creates this other particle. Point is, so if nature can't create that, are you saying that God is putting the information in those electrons to create those other particles? And if so, where is that? Can you demonstrate where that is? Where's that information? If things just can't happen in nature without God, please explain that to me. What's your evidence? Oh, gee, okay, we're going on 15 minutes here. I don't want this to sound like criticism. You guys are awesome, but I feel like we're just giving them way too much rope to hang themselves to the point where they never actually hang themselves. And look, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere or whatever, but if I ever get to debate one of these, lying creationist presuppers they just get to presuppose God and everything, I think I would just take them apart. Just calmly ask. If I had any piece of advice, just calmly ask them questions. Okay, wow, that's really interesting. How did your God do that? How does your God make a universe? What did he make it out of? Where's God? Where's the Holy Spirit? Can you show it to me? I mean, this can't be just like I have this made up thing and I get to put it up against your real thing and say, haha, I win. That's bullcrap, guys. Like, come on. All right. Well, thanks for hearing me out. If anyone ever sees this or whatever. And, all right. Peace.